everyone, Heather here. I thought I'd come on and show you a little tutorial on how I use overlays and textures in my images. So with this image, because she's up in the clouds, I wanted to put a bit of elements of clouds in front of her just to demonstrate that even more to my audience. So I have some fog overlays here that I've created. And all you need to do is find your folder and drag and drop it on top of your image. All right. So now that I have it on my image, you just need to drag it in place where you want it to be. And I'm just gonna unlock the chain here, and I'm gonna just smoosh it down a little bit because I don't want it to be too high over top of her. And I'm just going to hit enter on that one. And then with it being black and white like this, you just need to play with your blending modes. And I usually put it on screen. And then that is pretty much it. If you don't like it being over top of a certain part of your image, you can just put a layer mask over top of it. So I just hit this button down here to create a layer mask on this layer. And then you just take your black brush, a normal black brush, and then you can just paint it off wherever you don't want it to be. I like it as it is, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So this is before and this is after the fog layer. Alright, on this next image I'm going to demonstrate how I use my textures. So with this image, when I was looking close at the water, what I noticed was just a little bit of banding right in, let me get my arrow here, right in here. You can see some banding, just kind of these lines coming through. I'll zoom in closer and maybe you can see them better. Just these lines right in here. You can get that a lot in your images if you do a lot of painting, and in particular if it's a light color touching a darker color, and you can get this banding. And what I do to kind of hide that is by adding either grain or a texture over top. With this one I'm going to use a texture because I wanted it to look very dreamlike, very painterly, so a texture can add to that painterly effect. So I have these textures that I've created. They are watercolor paper overlay textures, and they look like paintings. So I'm going to drag and drop one of them on top. And I'm just going to rotate it. And resize it to fit. You can either clip it down up here with the little chain or just leave it as it is. I'm just going to leave it and hit enter. And with this one you change it to either an overlay or a soft light. Don't worry about the color. You can always get rid of that. So as you can see, the texture is over top here. To get rid of the color, don't be shied away from using, colorful overlays, because you can always take the color out of that overlay. What I do is I normally go to black and white, and then I just clip it. So you right click on the layer and you create a clipping mask onto your layer of the overlay. Okay. So as you can see, the banding gets kind of hidden. You can't see the banding anymore. It gets pretty hidden. You can also just kind of bring that down all the way down. Oh, sorry, wrong layer. Go to your watercolor layer and just bring the opacity all the way down. And what I do is I just slowly bring it back up, and I'm watching the banding right here, and I just slowly bring it back up until that banding starts to disappear. So right about there at 65. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer mask on here, and with my brush at 100%, a small brush, at 100%, I'm just going to paint it off my subject. Oh. If you make a mistake, you just hit Control Z to go back. So I'm just going to make my brush smaller for her hand here. So I like to just paint it off the skin at 100%. Alright, and then on my brush I lower the opacity to about 40 or 50%. Just make my brush a little bit bigger and paint it off my entire subject. And then I go down to about 20%, make my brush even bigger, and then paint it off even more. And it just helps blend that layer, the overlay in a little bit. Alright, so that is how I use my overlays and textures on my images. It just creates another interesting element to your photos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the bell if you want to hear more information about Photoshop and learn a few tips and tricks. Alright, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.